Hello and welcome to the Peak and Roll podcast. We had to change up the music because this is an important kind of emergency broadcast. The Pistons just defeated the Toronto Raptors 94-90 in Summer League. And it was an absolutely all-around stunning performance from a lot of their key players, but especially the number 5 pick, Ausar Thompson. 17 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals with 2 blocks, 7 of 14 field goals, and he had 1 3 to end a quarter. And his first 2 jump shots were made today, and they were both very pretty. Jared Rhoden was also a good contributor. He had their first 9 points, finished with 18 and 8. And then the other impressive Pistons rookie was Marcus Sasser, the 25th overall pick with 15 points, 7 assists, and 2 steals. And like I said at the beginning, this was the Ausar Thompson show, proving why he belongs in this league and proving that even though OTE didn't maybe have the best talent, a lot of the skills that scouts saw were able to translate. And we're joined today by Caleb Mushinski. So Caleb, thanks for being here.
Yeah, as late as it is, glad to be on talking about Ausar Thompson.
So what was your first impression? We already talked about him a little bit from his first 2 Summer League games. But in this game, what did you see that was maybe a little bit different?
Well, I had the privilege of watching the first half of this game pretty much from the treadmill at the gym I go to. But just when that opening quarter started, I know it was pretty much the Jared Rhoden show on offense, making those first 3 shots. But you watched Ausar Thompson just completely baffle Grady Dick, stole the ball from him twice. And even on the second time, too, Marcus Sasser and him, he initiates the fast break to Sasser. He throws it back to him for a reverse alley-oop, and just in the back of my head, I'm watching Ausar Thompson initiate fast break offense, playing great defense. In the back of my head, I'm just like, oh my God, like this is his game where he shows up. And I just had to contribute that too, because you saw Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and James Wiseman all sat out. And we said in the first game against the Magic, one of the problems was he just didn't have the ball. And this game, he had the ball as much as he wanted. It was a good thing he did.
Yeah, you look at game 2, and that's where you saw him start to get the ball more. Because like you said, that first game, he didn't get many touches. And when he did, he made the right decisions. Game 2, there was an increase in his usage. And I think he wasn't really used to that. You could see there were a little bit more mistakes. But in this game, he fully embraced being the guy for this team. And like you were talking about Grady Dick, he still had a really good game, finishing with 22 points. But the big story is he lost the game for them. There was a layup at the end where it went off the glass and Grady Dick blocked it. And that's a goaltend. And the funny thing was he was just standing there like, what happened? What did I do? That's good. What are you doing? But no, that cost them the game because that tied up the game. And then Marcus Sasser had a key steal on Grady Dick, made a layup and went up 2. So Grady Dick single-handedly lost this game for him, but he was still impressive nonetheless.
Yeah, and I mean, too, there was the missed 3 in the corner at the end, but even I thought the guy should have just went up for a layup. I think that was Moses Brown who drove it in, and I saw Tuasana Walma try to take a charge. Then he just skid right past him with Wild. Like, all right, that's fine. We'll give him 2. We're up by 1. We just got to get some guys to make some free throws. And he throws it to Grady Dick in the corner.
Great pass.
I mean, oh, yeah, it was a great pass. And don't get me wrong, Grady Dick's a great shooter. He was drafted 13th overall because he is a good shooter. But at that point, because I think there was still like 4 seconds left in that game when he did that, I would have tried at least just to make that layup and then make the Pistons take it out of bounds. You got about 5 seconds on the clock, make them burn maybe like a half a second or so just to foul him, take a chance. Because Marcus Sasser at the end, he only made 1 or 2 of his free throws, even though he's a pretty good free throw shooter. It's just something that I would have done personally if I was making the decision, or just, I mean, it's just one of those things too, as time's running down, you're just trying to draw up a play. I'm sure that somehow it was to get the Grady Dick the basketball and possibly shoot a 3, or maybe even Marquise Noel, get him to shoot a 3-pointer late in the game. But that's just from when you have that much time and awareness, and you can see that there's still plenty of time to run the ball down the court, especially off a miss or off a fast break, and get another chance at a 3-pointer. I thought they should have just taken them 2 and then just fouled afterwards.
Yeah, it was a tough night for Grady because he only shot 2 of 10 from 3, and that's his calling card. And still tremendous he was able to finish with 22 when his primary defender was Ausar Thompson. And the main thing with Ausar is that he is such a high-level defender. You don't see him jumping at just anything. He always stays planted and he stays firm on the ground. There were a lot of plays where he wouldn't allow the defender to do anything. I mean, he was a disruption. And that's what you want to see out of a guy like him. And the thing with Ausar is a lot of people were giving him crap and down talking the talent in OTE, but he's come out here these first 3 games and shown tremendous amount of impact and a tremendous amount of upside and tremendous amount of NBA readiness. So I feel like people need to almost apologize for that.
I will definitely apologize too. I just fell for a lot of things people were saying. I mean, I watched the highlights and stuff, but you still can't match statistics too. I mean, everything right now he does really well right now on the floor. And we talk about except shooting. And that was one of the more alarming statistics was that 29% from the season from 3.
Mm-hmm.
And you say to yourself, well, you want to put Cade around, you want to put shooters around Cade Cunningham, which they did that in free agency. They re-signed Alec Burks. They got Joe Harris. They got Monte Morris. Well, I don't know how much him and Monte will play together.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I mean, it was one of those things at the top of my head where a more complete shooter like a Taylor Hendricks or Jarris Walker, to me at the time made sense because it was less of a project. And that's what my thing was, is we have so many young players already. I don't want to take what seems like everyone says is the biggest project out of everybody. But it seems like so far, I mean, Ausar is way better than we expected him to be already in 3 games.
Yeah, Ausar is one of those dynamic guys who can do everything on the court, like I was talking about, and that's going to get him minutes right away. I know people last year talked about Jalen Duren potentially starting in the G League, and I was one of those people because I thought, okay, he fell into that mid-lottery. He's the youngest guy in the draft. We can afford to maybe give him some of those developmental reps, but game 1, he came out against Orlando and absolutely proved everybody wrong. And I was the first to admit, okay, I was wrong. You don't need to see that. With Ausar Thompson, there were people starting to say the same thing. And that's where it gets into that conversation where if you're the 5th pick, or if you make the 5th pick, do you really want that guy in the G League too much?
No, you don't. And I was thinking too, you know, people have been saying day 1 starter Ausar Thompson. Well, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. If Bogdanovich is still there, I think he'll still start day 1 at that 3 spot. But now if you're Troy Weaver and you're looking at Ausar Thompson, seeing how he runs offense already, I mean, granted, it's just summer league against lesser talent, and it's not quite the professional level. Maybe this accelerates a Bojan Bogdanovich trade because I know they were asking a first rounder, which, in my opinion, with him at this state of his career, I think it's a little too tall of an ask. Maybe a couple seconds, like you see guys throwing 6, 7 second-round picks for a player now. But I mean, Bogdanovich is still in a pretty affordable contract. I think he only makes like $20 million a year or something like that. So that's not too terrible. But I think Ausar Thompson will definitely play day 1. He will not be by any means a G Leaguer or someone who gets a DNP or comes in at the last 2 minutes of the game. He will definitely be in at least the first quarter of the game.
And this is a game where he had the best feel on the court.
Yeah.
And Noel, the other point guard who demolished MSU in the NCAA tournament.
Don't talk about that.
All I remember was he always making all the right moves during that game. But this game, you can tell he's going against a little bit steeper competition. Right. And Ausar Thompson looked like he had the best feel out there. For a guy with Noel, when I was watching that MSU game, I said, this is like one of the best playmakers I've seen in college basketball. And to see Ausar tonight, where he wasn't even always on ball, have that level of feel is outstanding. Like his confidence in his passes is insane. Like just he gets the ball and quick behind the back pass. And it's just like you're doing that. Like you believe in yourself. You're that confident in that. And a lot of people talk about him as the lesser brother than Amen. I don't think so. I think his playmaking is a lot closer to Amen's as people think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I just want to point out, too, with Marquise Noel, I know you were talking about him struggling a bit earlier. I think a big part of that, too, we got to give our other rookie, Marcus Sasser, his flowers real quick. Because he only shot from here, it says 2 of 13 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3, and 4 turnovers as well as 6 assists. But still, I mean, I watched Sasser play fourth quarter defense. There was the one little small hip check, like foul on a three-pointer. But I just think because Noel's so small, he's like 5'8", 160 or something like that. It's just easy for him to hunt fouls on bigger players since he's just so below average for an NBA guard. But yeah, as you mentioned with Ausar Thompson, just in his feel, he just keeps improving every game, and the way he just runs a fast
Mhm.
break and just makes the right pass. I never really saw him throw it away. He had I think it says 7 turnovers here in his box score, which
Hmm.
you really don't notice that when he does so much other good things too. And there was a few too, I think, where he just slipped because I know that
Yep,
Las
his
Vegas,
handle.
yeah, where in Las Vegas there was, some condensation and stuff as well on the court. I know that happens, especially when you're playing all day there in the hot heat. So I can see where guys were just sliding all day. But other than that, I mean, as far as just a initiator on offense for being like PG1, basically, I think he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, that's a guy where I look at him and think his fit next to Cade Cunningham will be impeccable.
Hmm.
And I think when he was drafted, a lot of people said, you're going to really put a non shooter around Cade. But that's not all Asar Thompson is. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a guy that will help Cade because Cade can play off ball and know that there's another guy who can see the floor similarly to him. And Asar Thompson and Cade Cunningham, I know they have probably the best IQ on the team. I want to be in a room with both of them and just hear them both talk basketball and game planning and watching film and breaking stuff down. That sounds
Oh
fun.
yeah. That would be interesting. I keep thinking, we have all of these like competent young guys who all can just fit together. And you look at Cade and Asar, Isaiah Stewart, who just got an extension, pretty great extension. He's back on a pretty affordable deal for the most part. Isaiah Livers has always been a smart player. Jaden Ivey, I know we can say whatever we want about summer league, but when he plays more in a not so primary ball handling role, he's also a very high IQ level player.
Mm-hmm.
So just to see what Detroit, I mean, even too Jalen Duren for being as young as he is and how far he's come along. I mean, we just have this group of young guys that are just absolute dogs, and they're just going to keep continuing to get better.
Yeah, Jalen Duren it joins this group of high IQ players on this team, or I guess Asar Thompson joins them. But we're talking about Jalen Duren now. We're adding him to this conversation of players on this potential young core that have plus IQs. I mean, Jalen Duren always makes the right reads. He makes the good passes. He makes the good shots. Like he has really good selection. And you pair that with Cade Cunningham and Asar, those are three of the smartest guys and probably of the young cores.
I just love too having Jalen Duren. I know I told you before one of his biggest knocks were, oh, he doesn't get the ball enough. Well, if you watched that Memphis season, that was horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
Way it was pretty much like the Rockets were last year. The first guy that gets the ball across the court gets to shoot first. And
Yeah.
so when Jalen Duren went to us, I was like, this is perfect because he's going to get so much better, playmakers in Ivy, now Asar Thompson and Cade, and even Killian Hayes too for coming off the bench. He has so much better like players who distribute and share the ball a lot better than he ever did at Memphis. So I'm really excited to see just how these guys all play together.
I'm going to ask you a question, Caleb. So give me a percentage chance on if Asar Thompson will make 5 or more all defensive teams in his career.
That's so tough. There's so many, even this rookie class has so many great defensive
Mm-hmm.
players.
Because there's
I'm
only
just,
the two teams, and you have to think of it because they're positionless, aren't they?
I think they are, yeah. Well, then again, too, you look at like even the um all NBA teams. I think they put Jalen Brown at forward when he's more of a guard. So I
Yeah.
think it just might vary, or it might just be like a positionless thing. But I'm just trying to think. I would say maybe like I don't want to be too high, maybe like a 10 or 15%, because maybe 10% or even less than that, because making it 5 times is super
Yeah.
difficult, especially when you got a league with 30 teams. Possibly we might even get 2 more teams in the future
Yeah.
because there's a lot of circulation that we're going to add 2 more teams possibly. So that just adds 13, 14, 15 more guys per roster.
Well, let's change it. Let's say 2.
Okay, now that's a little bit more doable. I would say if he plays like this and it translates, like we're saying, let's assume that he translates like 20, maybe like 15 to 20% in that area.
You think only 15 to 20%?
Yeah, because there's so many great defensive players already too, and that are just so young. Like you look at Jaren Jackson, he's only
Mm,
about 24.
he's a
He's gonna
lock
have
for
a
a while.
he's gonna have a long career, assuming he doesn't get any more injuries. But
Mhm.
I'm just trying to think who was on that team this year. I know Giannis was. He's still only like 28, but
Wasn't Dylan Brooks on it?
yeah, he might have.
Draymond. Oh, this is I is this I looked it up and it says on the Google page Ben Simmons, and there's no way that that's true. That's old. Um, okay, Alex Caruso, Drew Holiday, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brooke Lopez, Evan Mobley, Bam Adebayo, OG Anunoby, Dylan Brooks, Draymond Green, and Derek White.
Yeah, and see, like Mobley is a guy too, but I mean, like we said, positionless. But most of the young guys on here are all forwards. Like you look at Bam, Jaren Jackson, Evan Mobley, they're all 25 or younger. OG is probably like 26, 25. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but he's like pretty much the only wing competition. And then assuming what you want to make out of Dylan Brooks, I mean, the dude still can be a pest defensively if he doesn't talk too much smack to LeBron James prior to a playoff series.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just think too there's so many good like up and coming wing defenders and guards too that are going to be in the NBA. They're just going to be. I want to see if there's a 23.
Well, the way I look at it is I'm looking for outliers on these teams.
Mm-hmm.
So for 22-23, I think the biggest outlier for me is Derek White. Not saying he's bad, but
Yeah.
a guy who's maybe not like a frequent awardee.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at the year before, the 21-22, I see Matisse Thybulle. Not that he's one of the better defenders in the league, but I
Mikal
think
Bridges on first team too.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't know with his offensive uptick in Brooklyn if he's going to be able to keep it up.
Right.
2021, I guess Thybulle is frequent, but I don't know if he's going to have the opportunity to show off. And I
Yeah.
guess what I'm trying to go with this is if the Pistons are on the trajectory to become one of the better defensive team or the better teams in the NBA with Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Ausar Thompson, Ausar is going to have more chances to like be on national TV, lock up key players, especially if he's the point of attack defender, and kind of get that recognition.
Right.
It all depends on the Pistons ceiling because if they're going to be a play-in team the next 10 years, I don't think he wins many
Oh yeah. No,
because there's no chance.
I'm just thinking too in that first like lottery, just some key defenders like Jarris Walker, Anthony Black, Cason Wallace are guys that'll come to my mind. Maybe
Well,
Omax if he gets playing time, but
so I think Victor will have the most stocks, which is steals and
yeah.
blocks combined. I
Yeah,
think
there's
he'll
him
get that
too.
easy just on blocks. So who do you think would go number 2
For
for
stocks
steals,
combined
blocks?
this year.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I think this is probably where Asar might fall in. The only other guys I really see him, especially with steals and blocks, is probably Jarris Walker. Maybe
Yeah.
Taylor Hendricks as well, depending on how much playing time he gets, because we didn't see him all of summer league. I know that's another guy who could get some steals and blocks as well. I mean, Cason Wallace is a bit undersized, get block shots, and he might not be utilized as much right away. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to think too. I think those are like really his only competition for as far as rookie defenders is probably just Walker and Hendricks off the top of my head.
Yeah, when I look at a guy like Jarris Walker, he's going to have a lot of opportunity because I think he's going to roam because you're going to have Miles Turner who's going to stay down low and kind of anchor that defense. So he might get some help defense steals, help defense blocks,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to his one-on-one blocks and steals. But I don't know. I feel like Ausar kind of gets that edge for me just because of his speed and athleticism.
Right. I'm just looking too, maybe like Koulibaly as well, because I've seen him make some pretty
Mm,
good defensive plays, but I don't know what Washington wants to do as a whole for a team next year. So we'll see what happens there. Because I feel like now with us in Indiana and Utah, we're in a position where we got to try and start winning now or see where we're at. So that's why I think those three guys really stand out for second overall in stocks.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay.
Oh,
Let's
can I
see.
throw one more fun one out?
Yeah.
Jaime Jaquez.
Oh, with Miami. Maybe that could be a sneaker.
That could be too. I'm just looking at guys at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of different defensive guys in this class that you could almost call defensive specialists.
Right. And I just think the other ones that were more defensive upside are a bit more projects rather than like play now players. So
And I think that's what makes the Central Division so insane to me is because every team has a key defensive player.
mm-hmm.
I mean, the Pistons, their future guys, Ausar Thompson, people could think of him as a top wing defender in the league. You have Indiana with Jarris Walker, who could potentially be a top defending forward that can switch onto those bigger wings. You have Evan Mobley. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo. And then you have Chicago. I mean, then you have Patrick Williams. No, not really. But
Yeah, you don't know Patrick Williams yet.
and before Ausar Thompson, Pistons would have been last. So it's kind of crazy to think that this rookie kind of made our defensive trajectory kind of skyrocket.
Oh yeah, even too like when you looked at the lineup of Ivy, Sasser, Ausar Thompson, James Wiseman, Jalen Duren, that's a legit like that could
Yeah.
actually be a lineup in the NBA like this upcoming season. And just when you see him with all this athleticism and length just flying around the court, and then minus Sasser being the only real exception because he's not really the biggest guy in the world. But for you see like he does to Marquise Noel tonight, he still holds his own against guarding the ones on the other team. So
yeah, this Pistons team, I think, is going to have to hang their head on defense this year.
mm-hmm.
And that's where it makes me think. I don't really know what the starting lineup needs to look like. This will be the last thing we talk about before we head out. The most projected one I've seen, the one that I've seen the most people talk about is Cade at the 1, Ivy at the 2, Bojan 3, Stu 4, Duren 5. And
that's what I've seen too.
I think that makes a lot of sense because it kind of it checks every box in terms of what you need in terms of size, athleticism, shooting, IQ, and playmaking. But there was one I saw that I think could easily trump that one. So you have Cade at the 1, Ivy at the 2, Ausar at the 3, Isaiah Livers at the 4, then Duren at the 5. So
Really?
the reasoning for this one is I really like Isaiah Livers as kind of a help side defender. And I
do
think
too,
that, and I think he can hold his own against some of those bigger forwards. And maybe it's more situational because this is a small ball lineup. And as we saw today versus the first two Summer League games I mean, we got out and we were fast this game. It seemed like first two games we were trying to just play in the half court, not really worrying about transition to set up Wiseman, to set up Duren. And that's what I worry about if we roll out two bigs in our starting unit is that we'll play slow. And with Ausar and Ivy and Cade on the court all together, that has a combination of length, IQ, defense, potential shooting. This all hinges on Isaiah Livers being 40% three-point shooting guy who has had his moments, but has been a little bit streaky.
Well, also too, as someone who can play 80% or 70% of a season, because that guy has just had the worst injury luck in the past 4 years between NBA and college alone.
Yeah, that's a risky one right there. I think that's a possibility. I think it's more of like a fairy tale at this point because I think if you have Bojan, he is going to start. With Stu's extension, he's probably going to start.
I've been thinking about this too. I think Bagley gets moved now or kicked out because they re-signed Stewart. And like you mentioned, I don't think they can play Duren and Wiseman together at the same time. They're too young and they just don't really, neither of them yet can really defend well on the perimeter. So I think they're going to run, like you mentioned, either Stu or Wiseman at the same time or Livers and Duren, whatever needed. But I just think with Marvin Bagley and the money he makes right now, which isn't much, it's only like $12 million a year, but still the way he fits in with this team that they have right now, and plus just his injury outlook as well. I just feel like that with that Stu extension that he's going to get moved out somewhere.
Yeah, that brings up really good points because it's almost like a lot of our bigs can't play together. And part of me kind of wants to just give up on the Wiseman experiment and bring in maybe a minimum veteran center that can help Duren and Stu that doesn't have to play a lot because then Stu and Duren can be your fives along with that veteran only playing 10, 12, 15 minutes a night. Then you have Stu also playing the 4, and then you can also play small with Livers at the 4. You can play small Ausar at the 4 even.
You see, and that's what I was thinking too. Like we bring in like a veteran center or something. Because I mean, I'm with you too. I don't need to keep James Wiseman on my team. I think at this point he's still such a project. Has had very limited experience. Even
Mhm.
just watching him in summer league, he still just looks like he doesn't have the feel down low defensively. So if we determine too if we want to go a different direction that way, I mean, either way, one of those two guys will not be on the team by the trade deadline.
I'm hoping so. I know Troy Weaver loves his bigs, but it's time to move into the small ball era.
Right.
And if you're going to play two bigs, and I don't hate the playing two bigs because okay, small ball era I think is almost coming to an end because I think we're getting to the point where it's the freak unicorn athletes that are going to be your fours, like the Chets of the
Hmm.
world. He's probably going to play 5. Has he been playing 5 in summer league?
Yeah, because they don't really have, aside from like Jalen Williams, who's very limited offensively.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's been playing a lot of other forward spots. I think he's pretty much just been their 5 man for him.
Okay, then I guess let me use a different example. Using the Cavs with Mobley at the 4,
Yeah.
who's multi-skilled. With the Bucks using Giannis at the 4, even though he could play the 5. He's what 6'11", 7 foot. I mean, you're seeing these teams utilize these guys. Victor Wembanyama is going to play the 4. And I feel like that's where the NBA is going, length and skill. So that's why Bilal Coulibaly, very different topic, I'm very high on him. Just because with that length, if you can build that frame, I mean, he's not going to be Giannis, but he could be Giannis-esque in the way that
Hmm.
he uses his strength to get to the rim, and it's kind of an unstoppable force. And I don't even know how I got to this point, but here we are.
Can I just say something on top of that? Just
Yeah.
not to get too out of tangent, but Utah's going to be a team to watch too, with all of that length stuff. Because now with Mark Cannon, Taylor Hendricks, Bryce
Mm-hmm.
Sensabaugh, Walker Kessler, which I mean Walker Kessler's not a 3 point shooter really, more of a down
Yeah.
low guy. But now also too, you throw John Collins into a mix. That's
Oh, I
another.
forgot about John Collins there. That's
I would say
weird.
that's another team that, like I said, I'm watching out for with all that length and stretchability that they have there.
Yeah, Keontae George, and we're on this tangent, so we're just going to finish it. We're going to go
Love
with it for
him.
a little bit, but Keontae George might be the steal of the draft. I mean, in 5 years from now, he might be the Jazz's franchise point guard.
I mean, it's funny too because he's proving people wrong for being a playmaker. And I said this
Yeah.
too on the other pod, or we were talking about our draft winners. I didn't think he was necessarily their answer at point guard
Hmm.
because he's more of a shooting guard. He was recruited as a shooting guard. He played shooting guard at Baylor, who just happens to pass. But you see him in, at Utah running offense because he's the point guard. They don't really have one. And I mean, they don't really necessarily have one outside of Colin Sexton, who's more of a shooting guard anyway and scoring guard. So who knows? He very might well just be that starting point guard for Utah. But I still can't believe he fell all the way to 16. I thought he should have been a lottery pick. Maybe this is
Hmm.
where like the Jet Howard syndrome thing, taking that one space, has made it weird. I mean, I was thinking too last year of like Tari Eason falling to the Rockets.
Yeah.
It's just like there's always going to be like one or two guys that just jump into the lottery where you think someone should go. It's just like them. Like Houston's just sitting there like, oh my God, like,
Hmm.
Tari Eason's here. Who would have thought? And then Utah just says, wow, I can't believe Keontae George is still
Well,
here at 16.
that brings me to another point. Houston has had a history of that because
Yeah.
Alperen Şengün didn't necessarily fall to them because OKC drafted him, but Şengün fell from what I remember because that was the 21 draft, and I thought the Spurs were going to pick him, but then they picked Primo,
Oh my God. Yeah.
and so that was weird. And then Şengün started falling, and I was like, he's going to go any of these picks now? And I feel like he fell right into the Rockets' hands because then OKC traded. Can't even remember what the full trade was. I'd like to look at that at some point. But then you see Cam Whitmore and then Tari Eason. So the Rockets have had their way with kind of finding these late lotto and early 20s steals.
Yeah. For guys that probably should have went 5, 6 picks ahead of them.
Yeah. But Caleb, the Jazz game is on now. I'm probably going to go and watch some Keontae George, and probably because we talked really good about him, he's probably going to go 0 for 13. So
God, I hope not.
we're going to see. But I just want to say it again. I'm very excited to see Ausar Thompson next game
Oh, yeah.
because he had the keys for this third game, unless they sit him, which I would be furious if they sat
No,
Ausar
they
Thompson
won't
for the
sit him.
4th game.
If
Um,
if they
oh,
keep playing like Anthony Black and Jarris Walker,
yeah.
they're gonna play Ausar.
Well, are they going to make the tournament? How does that work?
I think so. What it is like your most wins, and then they might do like some kind of bracket style thing. So we're 2-1 right
Hmm.
now, and I'm trying to look at the schedule here for our next game. I think we play like the Spurs next or something, and Wemby
Yep.
shut down.
Yeah, we're currently 13th because there's a lot of teams that are 2-1, 3-0.
Yeah. And then like I think like Orlando and New York was fighting for their first win today.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, there's currently the Raptors are 0-3, Hornets are 0-3, Warriors are 0-3, Magic are 0-2, Knicks are 0-2, Celtics 0-2, Nuggets 0-2.
yeah, I'm looking right now. We play the Spurs this Friday on ESPN, which, like I said, Wemby won't be playing, but the Spurs are most likely still going to have guys like Malachi Branham
Yeah.
and
Blake
Julian
Wesley,
Penny, Blake Wesley,
Barlow.
Dominic Barlow, yeah, Saitis Sissoko, Charles Bediako can get going too.
Yeah, that's a full roster. And with this Piston squad, because I think it was before, I don't know if you said it on stream or before the stream, how we should just be running a 6-man rotation.
I think it was before, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if with the guys that we're currently running, if unless we play Sasser and Asar 48 minutes, and then both would
Oh
probably
man.
tear their ACL or something.
Oh
So,
no.
but I think we're screwed. I don't know if we're going to beat the Spurs, but who knows?
You never know. I mean, Wesley to me is still a little bit of a growing pain for a guard. I don't think he said that really the most accurate shooting tournament, but I've always been a big Branham guy. I know like in college his shooting splits were like 49, 44 and like 87 or something like that. So he's
Hmm.
always just been a knockdown shooter. He had the one rough game, like not this past game, but 2 games ago. But other than that, the dude, if you exclude that, the guy averages like 30 points a game.
And we need to win because, as you know, my brothers, Sean and Nate, they love the Spurs.
Yep.
And for the listeners, my wife's family are huge Spurs fans. They listen to every game, they watch every game. And to be honest, when I called them, they were like, "Oh, did we get Victor?" And I was like, how are you guys not having the lottery on right now? They don't deserve Victor."
No.
But whatever. We got Asar, who is going to be better than Vic. No, he's not, but it's okay.
We can only hope. As
But
long as, hey, my bar right now, I
yeah.
told you, his bar to beat's Jarris Walker. That's my bar for him.
And we're going to play him 4 times a year. So that's
Yep.
going to be exciting to see, seeing all these defensive teams, because I bet you we have the best defensive division in the NBA.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, easily. And
I mean,
that's
like you
tough.
said, mine is Chicago. They're kind of the
Oh, yeah.
outliers, but
Oh, well, we can look at that again next episode. But Caleb, thank you for joining me, man. I really do appreciate it.
yeah, no problem. Good to talk about some summer league.